إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد أشهد أن عليا ولي الله عليه الصلاة والسلام أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله وأسأله التوبة الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر. ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العلى وبحمده. سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. يا ولي العافية نسألك العافية. عافية الدين والدنيا والآخرة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله أكبر، الله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله استغفر الله وأسأله التوبة الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانهر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمد ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده ربي صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. يا لطيف ارحم عبدك الضعيف بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله وخير الأسماء لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إنه ليس العلم من موضع رزقي وإنما أطلبه بفترات تخطر على قلبي فأجول في طلبه البلدان فأنا فيما أنا طالب كالحيران. لا أدري في سهل هو أم في جبل أم في أرض أم في سماء أم في بر أم في بحر وعلى يدي من قبل من وقد علمت إنه علمه عندك وأسبابه بيدك وأنت الذي تقسمه بلطفك وتسببه برحمتك. اللهم صل على محمد وآله واجعل يا رب رزقك لي واسعا ومطلبه سهلا ومأخذه قريبا ولا تعنني بطلب ما لم تقدر لي فيه رزقا فإنك غني عن عذابي وأنا فقير إلى رحمتك. فصل على محمد وآله وجد على عبدك بفضلك إنك ذو فضل عظيم. اللهم صل على محمد. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah, Assalamu alaikum ya Ali ibn Abi Talib, Assalamu alaikum ya Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidat Nisa'il Alameen, Assalamu alaikum ya Hasan al-Mujtaba, Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, Assalamu alaikum ya Tis'at al-Ma'sumina min Zurriyat al-Hussein, Ali ibn Hussein, Muhammad ibn Ali, wa Ja'far ibn Muhammad, wa Musa ibn Ja'far, wa Ali ibn Musa, Muhammad ibn Ali, وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الأسر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على
Bar Muhammad wale Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wale Muhammad. I guess I give you guys enough time to get to know each other, right? So we can start now, please. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع ذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناهم في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى مدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يرد الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها هبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمر وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا شريك لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مركدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواج في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناه على مكانة فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأ أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात। यहाँ संभल कर कदम उठाना ये करबला है, ये करबला है। यहाँ संभल कर कदम उठाना ये करबला है, ये करबला है। ये बात हरगिज़ ना भूल जाना ये करबला है, ये करबला है। जहाँ सब्र रिज़ा यही है, निदाए सब्र रिज़ा यही है। यहाँ पे आके है चल के मेहदी, बेहिश्त ज़हरा ये सरज़मी है। यहाँ है ज़हरा का आना जाना ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये कर दुआ देंगे हुसैन तुमको, यहाँ पे आंसू अगर बहाए। यहाँ पे बेटी ने बेवतन की सितमगरों से तमाचे खाए। यहाँ पे खुशियों को भूल जाना ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये करबला। यहाँ पे गुजरी है वो कयामत, मिला ना उसको सुकून अब तक। रिदाएं छीनी के गम में आबिद, लहद में रोता है खून अब तक। यहाँ पे हरगिज, अरे यहाँ पे हरगिज ना मुस्कुराना। ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये कर। यहाँ पे हुर भी था, हुरमला भी, किताब हस्ती को पढ़ के देखो। सदाए हलमिन जो आ रही है, तुम इस तरफ हो या उस तरफ हो, तुम्हें अमल से है अब बताना। ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये करबला है, ये कर। यहाँ संभल कर कदम उठाना। ये करबला है, ये करबला है। मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
Malam Dungarsi, Sheikh Bilal, elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Let us recite 5 times Amma Yujibul for all those who are in need of our prayers. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma Yujibul Mustarra Izada wa Yakshifu Su. Amma Yujibul Mustarra Izada wa Yakshifu Su. Amma yujibul mustarra izada wa yakshifu su. Mustarra izada wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mustarra izada wa yakshifu su. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Today's Tabarakat has been sponsored by the KK group. So let us recite Fatiha, especially in the memory of Taisin Karmali. So let us recite Fatiha for all marhumeens. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Just for your information, Friday namaz has been opened, no registration is required, and we have separate thing for the ladies also, so they are more than welcome to join us. Thank you. Khuda Hafiz.
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وعلى Your second salawat is condolences to Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. And your loudest salawat to hasten the master of our time, Sahibul Asr wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بذكرنا لاستشهاد الإمام الجواد عليه السلام. May Allah increase in our reward for the commemoration of the Shahadat of our mazloom, oppressed Imam Al-Jawad. This Imam is something unique in history. First we know that his imamat begins at the age of 8 and his shahadat is at the age of 25. No imam was martyred at such a young age as Imam Al-Jawad. And that his imamat lasted for a period of 17 years. At his birth, there is a statement of Imam Radha that we pointed to a few weeks ago, that when they asked Imam Radha, is this the Imam that we have been waiting for? What's the ta'arif? What's the attribute of this child that you present before us? Imam Radha explained, he said, Ma kana wulida fi Islam mithleh. That no one has been born in the nation of Islam like him. There is no greater barakah for the mu'mineen than this, my son Muhammad. This statement of Imam Al-Jawad, of Imam Radha, in the ta'arif and the honor of Imam Al-Jawad, is for a number of reasons. One, if we were to take a look at the history of Islam, we would say that Imam Radha did not have any children until he was about 48 years of age. So the matter of imamat was doubtful of where it would go after Imam Radha. And that to clarify that affair of the imamat after Imam Radha was one of the benefits that we received, that where imamat was falling into doubt in the minds of people of where it would go, the birth of this, his son, clarified the position of imamat. Another factor in this statement that we would look at to see the wisdom of why Imam Radha made this statement was the factor of the imamat of Imam Al-Jawad, Imam Al-Taqi, starting at the age of 8. This attribute of Imam Jawad's imamat starting at the age of 8 was very significant for a variety of reasons. One is it showed the divine nature of the knowledge of the Aimma alayhimus salam. You see, up until Imam Al-Jawad, every imam who began his imamat began it in maturity. So the argument could be made by some that yes, they are imams, but they are well trained from the previous and the prior. For example, Imam Zainul Abidin spent time from Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and then his imamat began. Imam Al-Baqir in his childhood was with Imam Al-Hussein, then he spent his entire life with his father, of over 30 years before he became the imam. Imam Al-Baqir, same thing. Imam Sadiq, same thing. Imam Al-Kadhim, Imam Al-Radha. But Imam Al-Jawad, at the age of 8, he was separated from his father at the age of 5. At the age of 5, Imam Rada was taken to Marv, to Tus, to Khurasan. So Imam Al-Jawad completely separated. So you would say that this lineage, this silsila, this connection, this process of one educating the next has been broken, and then therefore how is it possible for imamate to go to a 5-year-old child or an 8-year-old child? And you see, one of the benefits that we have today, and it's a very important thing to know, that we have inherited our faith. That there have been nations and people for over 1,000 years who have been protecting this knowledge and this silsila of imamat, and they handed it to us. Such that if someone was to ask you, who are the 12 imams, you wouldn't think about it, you would simply begin from Imam Ali ila Imam Al-Qaim. Wouldn't think about it. But those who had to discover and understand the position of imamat, it didn't mean that they didn't love Ahlul Bayt. It meant, it showed that the times were difficult and it was hard to understand, where does this affair go? People had to really exert effort. Which is why one of the proofs and one of the miracles of the imamat of Imam Al-Jawad is that the majority of the Shia stayed together and did not separate, though he was only a child of 8. And some we know from the courts of Ma'mun, but even other than that, there were from the various lands at the Shahadat of Imam Rada, approximately 80 of the leading Shia of all of the Shia in the Muslim world came to Medina to discover where did the imamat go after Imam Rada. And the idea that it would go to a child was not something they were even considering, because they had never seen it before. It had never happened before. So famously the narration tells us that they went to the brother of Imam Rada, Abdullah ibn Musa. Abdullah ibn Musa was a good man, was a pious man, but he was not the imam. And when these people gathered who had the knowledge of what it means to talk to an imam, what is the knowledge that an imam possesses, they found that Abdullah was lacking. This isn't the only time. As a matter of fact, this has happened even after the Shahadat of Imam Al-Askari. That where they went to Ja'far, the brother of Imam Al-Askari, and Ja'far had even claimed imamat at that time. He had claimed, I am the next imam, which is why he was known as Ja'far al-Kadhab for a time. Ja'far the liar, because he said, I am the imam. And even this Ja'far, they went to him and they tested him. And with his test, they were even more specific. They brought him purses of money where the name of the one who gave the money was sewn inside the purse. And the nature of the imam would be that without touching the purse, he would say, this is from so-and-so, in it this much is halal, this coin and this coin are not halal, return them to where they came from, and that we accept it. So when they tested Ja'far, they put the bag in front of him, and Ja'far said, thank you very much, and said, an imam does not accept an amana like this. Ja'far says, what do you mean? He said, we've seen it from every imam prior. When we give them this bag, this purse, they reveal to us who it's from, what's tahir, what's untahir, what's in this, so that we know this is the imam. Ja'far says, you expect me to tell you the unseen. How is that my responsibility? They said, that is exactly the responsibility of the imam, therefore we know you're not the imam. The same situation took place in the time of Imam Jawad. And Abdullah, while a good man wanting to keep people together, when they asked him questions, they found that he is a person. He's not the one who has knowledge of the unseen. And then as they sat there, these 80 elite companions, or amongst the better companions who were there to represent their communities, they began to wonder, what do we do now? And as they were in this process of wondering, what do we do now, Imam Muhammad ibn Ali Al-Jawad entered the room. And he sat before them and said, ask me what you choose to ask me, I will answer you. And the Imam replied with the knowledge of ilm al-ghayb, that unseen knowledge that no normal person could possess, that removed the doubts from these 80 people, such that they went back to the mu'mineen wherever they were in the lands. and inform them that the matter of imamat is preserved and we know who the imam is. This demonstration was a proof for the mu'mineen and the Shia that their selection of an imam throughout history has not been an arbitrary affair, that we were lucky that we chose this person, we were lucky we chose that person. No. They learned through this attribute that certainly whoever it is that is the authority of Allah on this earth possesses a divine knowledge, one that cannot be taught from one person to the next, and that certainly that imamat is the door of the connection between Allah and humanity. This understanding is critical for us today, that the love of the Ahlul Bayt and understanding of the position of the Ahlul Bayt as the link between the divine and between the material world is very important to understand, because it justifies and explains why we love these personalities, we weep over them, we invoke them, and we visit them, and that we name our children after them. We emulate their attributes, because for us that understanding that this is the divine representative tells us that first and foremost, though he may not be present in the material world at the moment alive, he still maintains a connection with Allah that we benefit from. And that our devotion and attachment to them is an attachment to the exact wonderful thing that Allah wants to see in humanity. If you want to know what does Allah want from me, how do I get closer to Allah, it's not something you have to guess at. It's something that we know He gave us the perfect example to follow. This is the second reason why we would understand that Imam Radha makes the statement that one like my son has not been born in Islam. That one who had to manifest the authority of imamat at the age of 8 to demonstrate the divine nature of the position of imamat was proven without a doubt through the example of Imam Jawad. A third reason that we would say that we see the benefit and the power of the statement of Imam Radha is when you understand that by us learning about the ability of imamat to be manifested in even an 8-year-old, it facilitated and solved the big problem for us that when Imam Al-Askari passed and there was only a 5-year-old boy, and people questioned, how can a 5-year-old boy become the imam? The Shia said, no, we've seen this before. We know that this age does not remove the authority of Allah from him, and that we don't need to doubt on where the imamat went after Imam Al-Askari, but rather Al-Qaim Ali Muhammad Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Faraju Sharif. He is our master, and we don't doubt that his age prevents him from being the imam of the time, nor do we need to see him debate and present to us to know that he is the authority over us. These are three of the various benefits that we could easily understand from the fact that Imam introduces Imam Al-Jawad as something unique in the world of Islam, and as a great bounty and a blessing for the mu'mineen, that it firmed our aqeedah, it firmed our relationship with Ahlul Bayt, and removed the doubts that we suffer. Now, this life of this Imam is one that from the mawad, from the material that we have left from this Imam, it's narrated we have maybe only 250 ahadith from this Imam. 250. Imam Sadiq left over 30,000 hadith. Imam Jawad, 250. One of the explanations is how this Imam was entrapped through the Khilafat, and that he was married to the daughter of Ma'mun, Fadl, and that Fadl is the one who was responsible even for the Shahadat and the poisoning of Imam Al-Jawad. one of the questions that when we look at a historical context that comes to play is, why would the Imam marry the daughter of the Khalifa? Remember, the same Khalifa is the one who is responsible for killing his father. Imam Rada was killed by the Khalifa, who then turned and married his daughter to the son of Imam Rada. Why would the Imam do such an action? First and foremost, when we ask such a question, it's more to understand a context than to question an Imam. An Imam is not a personality that can be questioned, because his action is something that is revealed by Allah, and it is performed, and it is the perfect action for every moment. So the question is not something that when we debate we'll be able to say, yes, the Imam made a good decision, it was smart that he looked at the variety of situations and came to this conclusion. Nor is it one that we say that, well, if the Imam had made another decision, it would have been the right decision. But rather for us, it's an uncovering of the situation that existed at the time and learning about some of the wisdom that Allah appointed for us to learn from. So when we ask this question, it's not as a criticism, but rather a process by uncovering the condition of the Imam and learning about him. From this aspect, the first question that comes is, why would the Khalifa of the time want the Imam to marry his daughter? What was the benefit that the Khalifa saw in this relationship? Because he already had Imam Rada, and he decided that Imam Rada was too dangerous for his authority, and he had Imam Rada assassinated in less than 3 years of being in the company of the Imam. Now all of a sudden he turns and he says to the son of Imam Rada, he says, yes, I want my daughter to marry you. I want to put you in a position that is even closer to the authority than what I may have given to your father. From this, there's a variety of analyses that come about that discuss, for example, the interest of the Khalifa was, again, to have a spy upon the family of the Ahlul Bayt. That through this process, there was nothing the Imam could do that would be absent from the eyes of the Imam. Another aspect that comes into play is that, for example, the idea of winning over the loyalties of the Imam. That's where he failed with his father, Imam Rada, that the Khalifa again tried to say that I can win the loyalties of this family and make them join me by inviting him closer to my family and giving him resources. Which is why one of the things that it said is that Ma'mun used to give a salary of alf dinar, 1 million dinar to Imam Al-Jawad. Another explanation comes that he had hoped to join his lineage with the lineage of Ahlul Bayt and therefore remove any doubt of where authority should go. That from his lineage then would come the attachment of Ahlul Bayt, and then therefore no one would ever question the Banu Abbas as being separate from the children of Abu Talib. And this association would tie his lineage better. Others said that he truly had a love and fascination for the Imam, and he tried by some way to connect himself. We say that this is a doubtful answer because of how he behaved with the Shia as well as the fact that the marriage of Imam Al-Jawad to the daughter of Ma'mun did not mean that he treated Imam Jawad with kindness. Rather, many of the difficulties in the life of Imam Jawad were caused by his father-in-law, the Khalifa of the time. Another point is that Ma'mun was continuing something he started with the father, Imam Rada, which was that by appointing the Imam as Naib Khalifa, those Shia who had been hidden in the world of the Muslimin and had been hiding from the persecution of the Banu Abbas felt that they were in a position of safety, that they could come out and reveal themselves. Ma'mun is one of those khulafa who had a deep hatred for the Shia. There are narrations that tell us that if you named your child Ali, in his time, he would take your child and kill the child for having been named Ali. And that his persecution of the Shia ended because there were no more Shia to be found. So one way that he tried to give false sense of security to the Shia was by invoking a deeper relationship with Ahlul Bayt, by which the exposure to the Shia would allow their further persecution and for them to be ethnically cleansed. These are some of the reasons that we take a look and we see that we don't see any goodness in the heart of Ma'mun that he marries his daughter to Imam Jawad, but rather he has ulterior motives and interest that promote this action of him marrying his daughter. And that to further his political power and to remove all of the dissent, he finds another way of entrapping the Imam within the group of the Khilafat. And that's why some of the points when we discuss, for example, Imam Jawad's debates in the court of Ma'mun, where he debates Yahya bin Akhtam at the age of 8 to demonstrate and show his authority of imamat. There are those who say that this is the debate that, for example, enlightened humanity about the presence of the Imam. No, this was one of the debates that was used by Ma'mun to justify and to demonstrate that this is a danger to us and we must remove this danger and we must bury this danger. The question that's harder to answer or more difficult for us to look at is why, knowing all of this, Imam Al-Jawad agrees to marry Fadl, the daughter of Ma'mun. This idea of discussing this question about why an imam makes a decision that on its apparent nature is harmful to him, on its apparent nature is something that's a danger for him, that leads to his shahadat, is sometimes a difficult question to review to understand what drives an imam to action. First we'll look at this in specific, and then we'll look at the rule in general. In specific, why the imam would agree to this marriage. Some have said that it was in the interest that, for example, preserving and protecting the Shia. And this I mention as the first example because this is the most weakest example that we possess. What do I mean? As I mentioned, Ma'mun was someone who persecuted the Shia. And Imam Jawad, by his relationship, was given the salary of 1 million dinar. But the Imam is never in his life is seen as someone who enjoyed the benefits of wealth and seen as someone who dressed himself in wealth or behaved with wealth. All of the A'immah looked at wealth as simply a wasila, a means to an end, but not a benefit within itself. So some have come with the explanation that yes, the marriage of Imam to Fadl was in the interest to reverse some of the persecution done to the Shia. That he would take this money and give it and disperse it amongst the Shia, which is why the Imam is known as the one, and there are many stories about him giving thousands of dinars to people in need. Which is why he's even given the title of Jawad. Jawad is one who is generous, one who gives to everyone. Which is why even till today when we take the wasila of this Imam, we ask, Ya Imam Al-Jawad, O generous one, O giving one, give to us from yourself. Be our intercessor that Allah provides for us through you and your generosity. Until today, if you have a difficulty, if you have a problem, if you have a need, if you have a hajjah, he is also known as Bab al-Hawa'ij, one of the khususiyat of Kadhmain. One of the things I can challenge you upon is that go to Kadhmain and ask. And there's no way that you will not see the response of your request. That both of these personalities, both of these holy individuals, these connections with Allah, are those who would give without ever counting what they gave. So some made the argument to say that yes, Imam Al-Jawad accepted this marriage proposal in the interest that whatever financial means would come would be a way by which he would then protect and take care of the Shia and the Mu'mineen who are otherwise receiving extreme persecution. And that this isn't such a strange concept because we saw that, for example, in the time of Imam Sadiq, he appointed people who were in the government of the Khalifa with the interest of taking care of the Mu'mineen. However, we say that no Imam was reliant upon a dhalim to take care of the mazloom. That who is the authority of Allah does not need the support of the oppressor to take care of those whom Allah has appointed as His people. Otherwise we would say that today, now that the Imam is not receiving the wealth, na'uzubillah, how can he help us? So this is put to the side as something that we consider not a valid argument. The second argument is the same reason that Imam Rada accepted the Khilafat, the Niyabat Khilafat, was that his life was threatened and endangered. And that the Imam knew that if he did not accept this marriage proposal, that he would be immediately assassinated and there was no way of the Imamat continuing after him. that it was a necessity of the preservation of the silsila of imamat to accept this marriage proposal such that imamat would not be threatened or removed from this world. This has some more weight to it. When we look at this concept of why an imam takes such an action, that he marries someone like Fadl, who never left her fundamental as one of the members of Banu Abbas and never left the animosity of Ahlul Bayt that existed in her heart, we can phrase a larger question around this. Why did Imam Hussein go to Karbala? Why did Imam Ali not become the third Khalifa? Remember something. When the second Khalifa dies, he creates a shura, he creates a council. And in this council are 6 people, one of whom is Imam Ali alayhi salam. And the agreement of this shura was that one of them has to be Khalifa, and if they don't all agree upon his khilafat, then they should all be killed. And these 5 others, they turned to Imam Ali alayhi salam and they said, we'll make you the Khalifa. One condition. Believe in what was passed by the first and second Khalifa. If you accept this, Khilafat is yours today. We'll all accept everything that you want from us. Imam Ali refused. And the Khilafat went to the third Khalifa, and then after him it came to Imam Ali. A fair question would be why? Why did Imam Ali not give them lip service or agree and take the Khilafat, and wouldn't it have been a greater protection for Islam had the Imam made this agreement? Or you take a look at, for example, the life of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, our second Imam, where he makes the treaty with Muawiyah. Wouldn't it have been better that the Imam would have fought against Muawiyah the way his father did in Siffin? All of these questions, when we put them together, we say that there are actions that are performed by a ma'soom that we don't understand why the ma'soom chose the path that they did. That when we look at the material impact of these actions, we say that the material impact of the action of the ma'soom doesn't make sense. The Imam could have done so much more greater good. The Imam could have helped so many more people. The Imam could have. The Imam should have. And this question begins to arise in our mind, that what is the motivation? Not to criticize the Imam, but to understand what is the motivation that motivates an Imam to select a path. And this is a really important question, because it goes back to our initial point that the Imam is an example for us of what Allah wants from us in this world. That if there's something unique that motivates an Imam to perform an action that goes against what the common intellect would accept, I need to understand his motivation so that I too can learn how to follow that motivation. If I'm looking at the situation of Imam Al-Hussein, and I'm seeing him not take an army, not move with an army or with a strategy of war, and I'm seeing him move with his family and his children, if I'm seeing him being in the field of Karbala on the day of Ashura, if I'm seeing him refuse to give bay'ah to Yazid and preserve his life, the lessons from Imam Hussein, the du'as, if he would have given us one more du'a, who knows how the world would have changed. But the Imam refuses all of this. What is that motivation that takes someone like our 9th Imam and motivates him to marry to someone who is clearly trying to assassinate and to kill him? And I'll give you the back end. We're going to discuss it very briefly. Are you guys okay? We're okay? Nobody's falling asleep yet? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This was supposed to be a 2-part conversation between yesterday and today. Today was supposed to be the practical example from the life of Imam Al-Jawad of the lesson we were talking about yesterday, which, since I didn't give it, you all didn't hear it, we'll just assume everybody knows what I was going to talk about, okay? Now, very briefly, a human being who is a composite of a body and a soul has 2 forms of motivation. One is a physical motivation and a material motivation, and the other is an intellectual or spiritual motivation. man is constantly swinging between these two. That he's either striving for something material that he wants to achieve, or he's striving for something intellectual or spiritual that he wants to achieve. The difference between this is, for example, solving a difficult math problem. You see, solving a difficult math problem has no physical benefit to it. There's no possession or material entity that attaches to me when I solve a difficult math problem, when I solve a difficult intellectual problem. Nothing physically changes to me. There's no material benefit to me for that action. But mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I find myself in a state of satisfaction. I feel happy. I feel an accomplishment. I feel like I've done something that benefits me, though I may not see a benefit, though I may not see a dollar, a dinar, anything from it. This is why I tell today these Sudoku puzzles, all these puzzle books, what's the benefit? You spend your money to sit there and be frustrated with numbers. But people do it because there is an emotional or intellectual satisfaction that they are chasing, versus the physical satisfaction that if I go to work, I will earn money. If I, for example, buy good ingredients and I travel to find good food, I will enjoy my meal. Man is constantly between these two states of either choosing an action that gives him a physical satisfaction or choosing and performing an action that gives him mental or emotional satisfaction. That mental and emotional satisfaction lasts much longer than a physical satisfaction. Physical satisfaction, for example, a juicy burger, a really good burger. Once I've eaten the burger, khalas, the enjoyment of it is gone. The pleasure has disappeared. I get some money. Once I spend that money, the pleasure of it is gone. But the emotional or mental satisfaction that I attain is something that stays with me and lasts with me. For example, we can remember times that we did well on an exam, and we remember that exam and we remember that moment. Where we were called, for example, to be a genius, an intelligent person. Our character was appreciated. That satisfaction and pleasure remains with us. And that in the state of man, between these two satisfactions, the one that has more permanence to it is that spiritual satisfaction, that mental satisfaction. The greatest form of mental satisfaction that we can achieve is the satisfaction that Allah has for us. And even this concept, and which is why this is a longer conversation, that when we look at the reward and punishment of Allah in heaven, it's not simply a physical punishment or a physical reward. It is also a mental or spiritual reward and mental and spiritual punishment. And the proof for this is very lengthy, but very briefly I'll give you what, you guys are okay? I didn't lose anyone? We're okay? One example of this, right, is given to us in Surah Al-Insan, in the conversation about why the Ahlul Bayt feed the orphan, the wayfarer, the prisoner. When Ahlul Bayt, for example, in the Quran, it discusses وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا, where it says, and they fed the poor and the stranger and the orphan out of love of Allah. They said, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شَكُورًا. That they said that we fed you for receiving wajh lillah, the pleasure of Allah. We don't want any reward from you or any benefit from you. That is an example that Ahlul Bayt's actions are not guided by physical reward or material benefit, but they're guided by performing that action that will give them the love and mercy of Allah over any material benefit or any material harm that may come to them. And this is a larger conversation. Unfortunately, it's very brief because we didn't have the chance to put these two together. But when we look at the motivation of a ma'soom, when we look in the material world, we'll always find it in conflict with why did the Imam make this decision. In the material world, the Imam will always come to a position that will be more harmful to him than beneficial. Why? Because the measure of success of an Imam is not having a long life, is not having great wealth, is not having position and safety and security. The measure of the success of an Imam is that he has the pleasure of Allah. And whatever has the pleasure of Allah is the action that the Imam chooses. The same is true of our Holy Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There are amongst companions that the Prophet kept, spouses that the Prophet kept, that people question, why would the Prophet make this person a spouse? Why would the Prophet make this person a companion? Why would he keep this relationship? It was not the fear of the harm of that relationship that the Prophet considered when making the decision, who do I partner with and who stays with me? But rather in what was the pleasure of Allah that he would approach Allah in the most pleasing form, and Allah would be most pleased with him. Which is why at the end of Surah Fajr, Allah himself describes, Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna, O tranquil soul, irji'i ila rabbiki, come back to your Lord, radiyatan mardiya, pleased with Allah, and Allah is pleased with you. The success of the Imam is the pleasure of Allah, which is the same success we need to consider. When you make decisions in life, when you make decisions about what's the right thing to do, where you should invest your time, how you should behave with a person, where should you go with your free time, look to see in which action is the pleasure of Allah, not just what is my material benefit and what is my physical benefit and what will I accomplish with this and how much money will I get and how much status will I get and how many children will I have and how will people respect me. This is not our measure of success, because this was not the measure of the Ahlul Bayt success. When Imam Al-Jawad marries Fadil, it is a demonstration of what has the pleasure of Allah, that in this way the imamat continues and the imamat is preserved, and that the example of the Ahlul Bayt is presented such that your religion reaches you today. Which is why the Shahadat of Imam Al-Jawad is a very painful Shahadat. It's a very painful Shahadat. In the narrations it says that Imam Al-Jawad was fasting on that day, when Fadil, motivated by her brother Mu'tasim, was motivated to poison the Imam. And that when my Imam, at the age of 25, can you imagine at the age of 25, when your body is in strength and you have your health, that to be given such a poison on an empty stomach after fasting. Remember, when you're fasting, you're not just hungry, you're thirsty as well too. It said that Imam Al-Jawad consumed this poison and immediately he felt the heat of the poison in his body, and he knew that his time had come to an end. He had been brought to the city of Baghdad and separated from his family, and oh, my poor Imam, who was killed as a stranger among strangers. Poisoned in such a way that there are two narrations that come. One that says that Fadil, to hide the poison, took Imam Al-Jawad and put him on the roof of the house under the sun, so that none would hear his calls and know that the Imam was in difficulty. And my Mazloom Imam, at 25, was given a poison like Imam Al-Hasan, that had his body torn apart and come apart under him, where he would call for assistance and none would come to him. The other, which is more treacherous, it says that Fadil locked the Imam in a room and brought singing girls into the house, such that the voice of the Imam could not be heard, as he suffered alone under the impact of this great poison. Oh, Imam Al-Jawad, we believe. There is a narration that says at the Shahadat of Imam Al-Baqir, when he was buried in Al-Baqiyah, they heard a woman who would come and weep and say, oh my son, they martyred you, they poisoned you, oh my son. When someone asked Imam Al-Sadiq, who is this that cries for Imam Al-Baqir this way? Imam Al-Sadiq replies with tears in eyes, it's my mother Zahra who comes to visit my father. If we were to believe that Zahra visits each of her children when they are martyred, what are the words she brings to Imam Al-Jawad? Oh my son, they killed you at 25. They poisoned you alone, but your mother Zahra is with you. Oh my son, be patient and you will be returned to me. How they killed you as a stranger alone in this land. But Imam Al-Jawad, there are certain things and honors that Allah preserved for you, though your shahadat was difficult. One, that your son was there to give you kafan.
that he performed your ghusl. Another that you were buried with your grandfather Imam Al-Kadhim. Hi Hussein! Oh Abu Abdullah, you were killed as a stranger with a sword to your neck, and one who sat upon your chest. Your son was prevented from your ghusl. Your body was left under the sun until today. You remain a stranger with none of your family. How must your mother Zahra weep over you, O Abu Abdullah? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم يا حسين.
कहते थे रो रो न की बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो न की बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, हाय गजब हो गया बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो न की बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो न मोहम्मद की, हाय गजब हो तकी। कैसा सफर ये हुआ जिससे जुदाई हुई, कैसा सफर ये हुआ जिससे जुदाई हुई, राही जन्नत हुए बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, हाय गजब हो गया तकी। रोऊं न क्यों करबला तुमसे जुदाई हुई, रोऊं न क्यों करबला तुमसे जुदाई हुई, आह में आज लुट गया बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, हाय गजब हो गया कि। क्या कहूँ बाबा भला रोती है मादर खरी, क्या कहूँ बाबा भला रोती है मादर खरी, पीटती है अपना सर बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, हाय गजब हो गए जी के करूं क्या भला आपका साया नहीं, जी के करूं क्या भला आपका साया नहीं, दम मेरा है घुटदा बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, हाय गजब हो गया बाबा तकी। जहर से मारा तुम्हें फातिमा बेचैन हुई, जहर से मारा तुम्हें फातिमा बेचैन हुई, सुए जीना चल बसे बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी बाबा मोहम्मद तकी, कहते थे रो रो नकी, हाय गजब हो गया बाबा मोहम्मद तक। सूरतुल बारक़तुल फातिहा।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا ولي الله، السلام عليك يا حجة الله، السلام عليك يا نور الله في الظلمات الأرض، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك وعلى آبائك، السلام عليك وعلى أبنائك، السلام عليك وعلى أوليائك. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وتلوت الكتاب حق تلاوته وجاهدت في الله حق جهاده وصبرت على الأذى في جنبه حتى أتاك اليقين. أتيتك زائرا عارفا بحقك معاليا لأوليائك معاديا لأعدائك فاشفع لي عند ربك. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن عجل الله فرجك وسهر الله مخرجك وظهورك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. سلامات.